Hi everyone, it's Simon from Higher Plane Games with a review of KartKraft, new game that's out in early access. It was released last week and I'm reviewing the game as of the build from the 7th of November 2018, which is 0.1.0.1420 for those that need to know. Very, very early on in its development. Now, for people that don't know me outside of High Plane Games, I've been sim racing for the last 15 years. I've taken part in many leagues in many different types of cars, and I prop up the back of the grid everywhere I go. Someone's got to be last, and it's usually me. But I absolutely love my sim racing, commentate on leagues as well, and yeah, it's just a great place to call home for me. So it's great to have a game that focuses entirely on karting. Quite often with a lot of games, they kind of do this as like an add-on and go, ta-da, look at us, we've done the whole career ladder. But actually, when you get in and play the game and then actually drive a real kart, then you're like, I'm less sure that you've really modelled that quite right. And so for me, whilst the actual content for KartKraft is really quite small at the moment, and I'll go into that in a smidge, what KartKraft has absolutely got right for me personally is the physics model that it uses for driving. Not necessarily for crashes or for damage or anything like that, because none of that's really in there, but the driving itself is spot on. The way how a kart works, at least when I've driven it, and to be fair, I am quite fat, so maybe it's different for skinnier people, but essentially if you hit brake as you're going into a corner, if you just smash it on, then you're going to go arse about face and swap ends, so you're facing the wrong way and you'll be like, that wasn't supposed to happen. And what you find actually when you're driving the car is that you have to be you can be on the loud pedal quite quickly, but you need to be much better on actually decelerating and feathering your brake down, so that you use that and almost trail brake into a corner and use your steering as a way to wipe off speed as you go round, and then you can floor it on the exit and use like your momentum and therefore the grip and the weight that you're pushing into the ground to push yourself out from the exit. And KartKraft follows that mentality really, really nicely. And once you start to get in the mindset of actually, it's less about, quite often for me, I find that actually I need to be quite feathery on the accelerator sometimes on games, because as you light up the rear tyres, then you'll spin off everywhere. Because with the karting, it's the other way round. It's about making sure that the brakes are the way that you do it. Once you get into that mindset, I found that I was actually lapping, bearing in mind that I'm driving with a controller, actually quite quickly and relatively consistently. What the game also does as well is it really mimics with karting is that you can go right up to the limit and you start to skid and you can feel that you're at the edge of the adhesion, and then it will just snap away right from you. And it's that violent snap away that I really, really like, because it's like you pushed that a little bit too far and then you're out of control. And you might only be going at like 100 kph, but you'll still have a proper good spinny offaroo. But I really like it, and I felt like I could feel it in the controller. It was giving me good feedback as to when I was hitting the edge of something. And yeah, it all comes together to immerse you really, really nicely inside the game. Now the game itself is exceptionally light on content, and I want to give full disclosure for this one up front. So you've got 8 different karts, although I've only played one, and I'll explain why in a second. 1 engine, 3 different tracks, but each of the tracks has loads and loads and loads of different layouts on it, but there's currently only one layout being used. So for instance, when you're going around PFI, the Paul Fletcher International Circuit, I actually spent the first couple of laps going down a completely different track, and I was like, well, why is my turn being disallowed? And I was like, no, I'm going the wrong way, mate. And so I think what would be a really easy win for KartKraft is to start inserting all of these different layouts into the tracks. They've gone to the effort of actually laser scanning the things, and you can tell because the way how it bumps and undulates, you can see that it's done from quote-unquote cheap tarmac, my words. But you can see that it's not into like a billiard table smooth effect of the track, so you're going to have to deal with those bumps and lumps, the camber changes of what happens in some of the corners as well, how vicious the curbs are, so that if you take too much it will spit you out, Or if you spin into a sideways thing and try and use the curbs to get back going again, quite often beat yourself on them. Done that a few times. But yeah, it's for me, for KartKraft, that's a big easy win. It should be quite simple to do. But also then in terms of actual game modes, the only thing on here at the minute is hot lapping and then uploading your laps to earn the global or national leaderboard. There's no quick race yet, no AI and no online multiplayer or matchmaking. However, all of those are confirmed to be brought out during its early access run through. So they're going to add, and they've put it out, and I'll pop the picture on the screen now for you. So you'll be able to see that you'll get 2 additional karts, 3 different engines, 2 new tracks, league support, which I think will be absolutely phenomenal for this game if it can be done and put into here, because I would happily become a KartKraft commentator to go around and do some league commentating for that. Component swapping and purchasing, though, is really, really interesting, because this game has a customization element. So at the very beginning, and I didn't get gameplay footage of this, is that you buy your driver's suit, helmet, kart, and a drone. And what will be going on long term is that you can start custom building and custom designing stuff, and that will be really, really good fun, I think, and interesting to build up your own kind of bespoke setup. The other thing with KartKraft is that currently it's a default setup and it's get in and drive. There's no setup options there at the moment, but that will be coming during early access. And for me, because of the way how the kart is, I just kind of got in and adapted to what was there. So setups for me are, it'll be a nice to have, and I can absolutely see from a league perspective and a competitive multiplayer perspective why everyone would be like, get those setups in. But for me, a kart is a kart is a kart. No, get in and drive. This is probably why I'm last over this. And the other big thing, obviously, and it doesn't matter to me because I don't have it, VR. But I can imagine VR being absolutely amazing if they get it right in KartKraft, because you're already snug in the kart itself. For that to work properly, though, they're going to need to start looking at driver views, because there's only one driver view in the game at the moment. So getting your head position in the kart so that you actually feel like you're really part of the kart, really like down to the millimetre, would be absolutely great as well. Other things that I'd really like to see in the game is things that will kind of come out from the quick race and the AI and the multiplayer stuff, and that's just making sure that if it's going to go for league support, it's built for the ground up for providing multiplayer action, or just providing, like, making your own championships, even if it's just with AI, and that will be around getting like broadcast style cameras in, as opposed to just the photo mode that's in there currently at the moment. Being able to save and download replays and then re-upload them, putting on some kind of broadcasting mechanics in there as well. Also around overlays and things like that. It looks quite nice for what's in there at the minute, but then how do you display like race order positions down the screen? Do you do live timing? What telemetry do you get to see? There's quite a big gaping hole there in content that KartKraft really needs to start thinking about, right, well, how, and I'm sure they have, think about how they're going to implement some of that so that it becomes like a really rounded affair. But it's currently out for, I think it's $14.99 in the UK, because I had it on my Steam wishlist before I was given a copy to review, and I will be coming back to this game over time to constantly show you what's coming, because I really, really loved my time out on track. Yeah, it just, I guess you need to, if you're going in now, you need to know that this is a hot lapper game at the moment, with a view of making it a much more rounded game in the future. It's also not without its bugs. So, I said earlier, I've only driven one of the 8 karts, and that's because at the moment I've only been able to go around on the track myself. And when I then go into hot lap mode, leaderboard mode, the game crashes with an exception. It's a known bug, they're looking at how they fix it, but quite a lot of people are having different bugs where it will crash and it won't let you go into a certain circuit, or it will crash when you go into certain menus, that kind of thing. So yeah, that's kind of slightly awkward. Also as well, when you go in for your very first game of KartKraft, it drops you straight in without actually letting you set up your Xbox 360 controller or your wheel. and you have to do the first race on a keyboard before you actually get to the menus, which I found quite hilarious and actually quite fun, to be fair. So yeah, just be aware of that. I'm an Xbox 360 user, and I know for a lot of people, so quite often people go, "Ooh, are you actually able to race a sim racing game with a real controller, or are you going to be seconds and seconds off the pace?" And to that, what I will say is you can do it, but you'll need steering help on. With steering help turned off, what I was finding was that when I came off my stick, the way how the steering is set up is that you would then have to quickly pull to the... Say if you was turning left and you was going into the straight, if you just let go of your analog stick and it returns to its centre position, the arms weren't following, and so I'd still kind of be veering off to the left even though I thought I'd centred it, so then you'd have to pull to the right and I'd end up kind of zigzagging down straight, and I was like, this ain't no good. But as soon as I turned steering help on, and bearing in mind I turned every other aid that's in there off, actually the kart felt really smooth and fluid. It's a bit like if you've got the F1 games, for example, or R Factor 1 or 2, and you put traction control onto medium a little bit. It just makes the ride so much more smoother so that you can understand and get apexes right and so on and so forth. Maybe over time I'll be able to turn off the steering help, and I'd really like to be able to, because I feel like it's giving me training wheels. But as a controller driver, actually it was still challenging because I was still getting used to how the kart worked and its physics model and that kind of stuff. But yeah, it certainly made me feel like I could drive and be competitive and feel in control still, even though it was giving me that smoothness support. I feel like also because although it had dead zones for things like steering and so on and so forth, what it didn't have for steering input, and it's what I liked so much with R Factor 1 and 2, was that it gives you sensitivity options for brake and accelerate, but it gives me no sensitivity options for my steering. And I'd quite like that to kind of come in if I'm using an Xbox controller, so that it will use my settings, say from other games, where I'm so used to being able to use that stick in the way that my head translates a steering wheel to. But for now, what's there is more than adequate. So that's KartKraft. Thoroughly enjoying it so far. I recommend it with a caveat that it's currently a hot lap game and there's a lot of unknowns to come. It's been quite slow with development as well, but actually since launch there's been quite a lot of chatter with the developers on there. They're already talking about how they're implementing the AI and quick races and stuff like that. So I'm super excited for where this goes, and I can see this being kind of a thing that I'll be bringing onto my channel a lot more, to give a lot more showing of the gameplay in the future. Thank you very much for watching. I hope the bugs get fixed so I can show you more in the future, and stay tuned. Take care. Bye.
This channel is just one of my many projects that cover games, music and film. If you enjoy any of these and would consider supporting me to develop further in the future, you can do so by visiting patreon.com/Satorimon. Thank you for your time and for watching the video.